Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Beyond the Scoreboard, presented by RDSC, and I'm your host, Michael Lyons. And the NBA playoffs have officially started, and we are going to talk all about them today. Starting off in the Western Conference, we're going to get the worst series out of the way early. OKC up 2-0 right now on the Phoenix Suns. OKC, they're just handling business like they usually do. Back-to-back years where they start a series with a 35-plus point win this year, winning 35 against the Phoenix Suns. Last year, winning by 53 against the Memphis Grizzlies, which still feels crazy that was a playoff game, because how have things changed for the Grizzlies, and how things continue to stay the same for the Oklahoma City Thunder. They continue to do what they've been doing all season long, dominating in transition, getting easy looks in the paint. Shea, despite not having a great game one, they still won by 35 points, which shows how great this team really is, and why I still look at them as the team to look at, the team to dominate in the West and go to the finals, probably win another ring. But this year they've been dominating all season long, just like they did last year, and they're doing it once again in the playoffs. The only thing I am worried about, J-Dub picked up an injury in, I believe it was the second quarter of game 2, left hamstring injury, which is the other hamstring that he's missed a lot of time due to this season. In this season, he missed a lot of time due to a right hamstring injury. So now he's dealing with a left hamstring injury, left hamstring strain. He's week to week now. By the time the Thunder are done with this series, most likely in 4, they'll have a little bit of a break to try and get him back. But you could tell that he knew he was injured. Play happened. Didn't get back on defense. Came once the ball did move into the front court, and then he moved back on defense. He was moving very gingerly. He took a foul, and then he just went straight to the locker room. Told Mark Daigneault that his hamstring was hurting him, and now he's week to week. So we'll see what happens. OKC, though, they've won games without him all season long. So I think they can get out of the first round, maybe even the second round, without him. But conference finals and finals, they're definitely going to need J-Dub in there to help alleviate some pressure from Shea. First game, he got to the free throw line a lot. Not gonna say he didn't. Second game, didn't get to the free throw line a lot, but had his best scoring game of the series so far. Some questionable calls down the stretch for the Phoenix Suns. I was not a fan of both the offensive foul on Devin Booker and then the technical foul on Devin Booker. I was not a fan of either one of those plays. The offensive foul, I understand it a little bit. You could kind of see that D-Book was kind of moving forward as he shot it, and he did elbow Caruso in the face, which technically, usually leads to a foul no matter what. The way that they said it was, necessary movement or whatever they called it, I don't personally think it was. I would have been okay with that being a no call, honestly. And then the tech, there was no way that Devin Booker deserved a tech at that point, because that was just that was bad. He was trying to save the ball. He did save it after the whistle. Hits Jalen Williams. Come on. Devin Booker was trying to fight to stay in this game, and then the refs kind of just gave it away at the end for Phoenix. They battled in the second half, though. In this game against OKC, J-Dub went out. Dylan Brooks, people got a lot to say about him, but in this game, in the second half, he was killing it. And, I mean, that's what you got to do when you're playing against the defending champions and you are down all game. Somebody's got to step up at some point, and he did it, but just too much at the very end for this Phoenix Suns team to deal with. The biggest thing I'm looking for in the next series with this Oklahoma City Thunder team is how much pressure Shea is going to be in without J-Dub being on the court. But their defense still looks immaculate. Jalen Green struggling every single night. But Jalen Green and Dylan Brooks are both, they're putting up more shots than Devin Booker. So you could tell that either Devin Booker's a little he's second guessing himself on shots because he knows there's so much double team and help coming from this Oklahoma City Thunder team, or you know that he just can't get open because he's getting guarded by Cason Wallace, Alex Caruso, Lou Dort, J-Dub when he's in the game. This team is just so deep. AJ Mitchell's making plays. It's just they are so deep once again this year, and the only thing that I truly think can hold this team back, this Oklahoma City Thunder team back, is injuries. Like game 2, we saw Jalen Williams get injured. Both J-Dub and J. Will, I think, got injured in game 2. Or J. Will got injured in game 1, but he did come back. Cason Wallace picked up a knock. So there are some banged up people on this roster, but Chet was dominating in the second half of this game. If they could just handle business these next 2 games in Phoenix, which I think they can, they're going to be looking really good. Moving on to the next round, who we are going to talk about that series being one of the most disappointing so far. But hopefully this Thunder team can stay healthy. Would love to see them go back to back. But also, it's just good for basketball having the Oklahoma City Thunder great and continuing to dominate, and whoever can eventually beat them, we are actually going to look at, like, this is a team that we have to really be like, wow, they beat the Oklahoma City Thunder. But moving on to the next series, one of the series that I was completely wrong about so far, the Houston Rockets versus the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers right now are up 2-0 in the series. KD missed game 1. Luka and Austin Reeves have not played either game, and the Lakers, LeBron has come out and he has shown that at 41 years of age, he can still dominate on the court, whether it's scoring, whether it's passing. It's insane to watch. And this game, first game, you got Luke Kennard going off. Then you got Marcus Smart going off. Rui's hitting good timely shots. This Rockets team, honestly, they just got punched in the face both games. They got punched in the face both games. And Ime, being a defensive-minded coach, the Rockets being a defensive-minded team, and you're allowing both Luke Kennard and Marcus Smart to go off for 20-plus points on you, while also allowing LeBron to just get whatever he wants. It's either one or the other. Either you let Luke Kennard and you let Marcus Smart beat you, or you let LeBron, who's 41, beat you, and they're just allowing everybody to beat them. Luke Kennard's hitting shots. Marcus Smart's hitting shots. They're getting open, which is partially because the Lakers are trying to leave like Marcus Smart, but he's knocking down shots. And at this point, the Rockets really need to change something. They've tried Aaron Holiday in at times. They've tried Amin guarding LeBron. They've tried Jabari guarding LeBron. Josh Okogie guarding LeBron. Nothing is working for this team. Jayshawn Tate's coming in. He's trying to give them some minutes, but he's getting in foul trouble. Reed Shepherd can't hit the broadside of a barn at this point. I keep wanting to give the Rockets some sort of leeway because they are missing one of their best players. In game one, they were missing KD, but they're also still missing Fred VanVleet in this series. But come on, this Lakers team without their top two scorers, and you're still losing, and you haven't even scored over 100 points in either one of the games. 94 points in game two and 98 points in game one against a poor defensive Lakers team with limited bodies that they can't throw at you. You have to get in the paint every single night. They did that in game one. This Rockets team, after game one, I was like, okay, this was just like a perfect shooting night for the Lakers. Because the Rockets won the rebounding battle. They won the points in the paint battle. They were winning the turnover battle. But yet, they did that again in game two, and the Lakers still somehow won the game. I don't know what Ime has to do in this going back to Houston. KD looked bad in game two. He had 9 turnovers, but he had 20 of their 50 points at one point or whatever it was. He has so much pressure on him because he's the only man on the court that the Lakers are like, he can beat us. Alperen Şengün is soft. He is so soft on the basketball court. He has a smaller guy on him. He's fading away, shooting post hooks. He's trying to back down bigger bodies to show that he's a big fella down low, but he just can't do it. Tari Eason looks lost on the court. His mom needs to send out some more tweets trying to get lethal shooters some shooting practice with Tari Eason, but it's too late in the season. Jabari's making some plays, but he can't knock down the shot consistently. Reed in game two was terrible. This series has gone absolutely terrible for Houston. I think there is a way they could turn it around. I think you gotta throw somebody else out there for this Rockets team. You're getting punched in the face offensively. Nobody is putting any sort of effort on the defensive end outside of Amin Thompson, really, and Josh Okogie when he's in there, but he only played 24 minutes after starting the game in game two. And they have smaller guys like Reed Shepherd and Aaron Holiday that they're trying to throw out there, but they're getting hunted on the offensive end by LeBron because he's such an offensive-minded guy that he sees mismatches and he's going to go at them instantly. I know Dorian Finney-Smith didn't have a great season. He missed a lot of time due to injury, but I think you got to throw Doe out there at this point in the season. You're down 2-0 in the series. I really think Dorian Finney-Smith, despite shooting 33% from the field and 27% from the three-point line in the 37 games he played this year, he's better defensively than anybody else on the court outside of maybe Amin. And at this point, the shooting can't get any worse. Tari Eason's 2 for 6. Jabari's 3 for 7. So at that point, Aaron Holiday and Reed Shepherd shot 0 for 6 from the three-point line in game 2. Doe can't be worse at three-point shooting than any of those guys have been in the first 2 games. So you got to throw Doe out there. J.D. Davidson, maybe. This team is desperate. I look at this team, they're desperate. I could see J.D. Davidson getting some minutes in game 3 and game 4. He's an athletic guard that can get downhill. That's what they need at this point. Aaron Holiday's not doing it. Reed Shepherd's not doing it. Amin is the only person that you really look at off the bounce can get to the paint. But they are playing so far off of him because he can't shoot either. So this Rockets team, I feel bad that I even picked this team, but there is some, you can still squint and it's like they're only down 2-0, but if you at this point, the best it can go to is 6 games. That's if Houston wins the next 4. By that time, Austin Reeves or Luka might be back, and the way the Rockets have been playing, not even scoring over 100 points, and Luke Kennard and Marcus Smart are killing you, what's it going to look like if Luka and Austin Reeves are on the floor? This team's going to be they're going to get dogged in the games if Luka and AR come back. And it's so... The bench for the Lakers is so bad. Jackson Hayes, Jake LaRavia, Jared Vanderbilt. Those guys are coming in with energy. But they are not... I mean, the Rockets bench isn't any better. Tari Eason's the best player coming off the bench. Reed Shepherd's better coming off the bench in this series. But the Lakers just feel like they have a better defensive identity than the Houston Rockets, which makes absolutely zero sense because this Rockets team thrived on the defensive end. They have a defensive-minded coach. They have Amin. They have Jabari. They have Tari. All of those guys are defensive-minded guys. Josh Okogie, he's a defensive-minded guy. But yet they are getting dominated by guys that should not be dominating these guys. Marcus Smart and Luke Kennard beating you in this series, scoring over 20+, that's on the Rockets at this point. And you're allowing LeBron to have 28, 8, and 7 in game 2, while these guys are scoring 20. When the Rockets, Alperen Şengün, 9 for 20, he had 20 points. He also had 5 assists. And then Kevin Durant, 7 for 12, 23 points from him. Those are the only two guys that scored over 20 points for the Houston Rockets. This was a lower scoring game. The Rockets' defensive identity, maybe it changes. Role players do play better at home. So Luke Kennard, Marcus Smart, those kind of guys. But it's looking bad for Houston. Now moving on to the Minnesota Timberwolves, up 2-1 on the Denver Nuggets. Last night was a complete shocker of a game. Obviously, Aaron Gordon missing time. This game was something that nobody was expecting because we got it so late before the game. But Denver, past 2 games, Rudy Gobert. I know everybody wants to look at what Ant, Dante, Julius Randle have done the last 2 games, Jaden McDaniels even. Rudy Gobert is locking up Nikola Jokic. Nikola Jokic cannot back him down whatsoever. And he's limiting his perimeter touches and limiting his chances of facing him up and beating him off the dribble. Rudy is having an amazing series once again, like he always does in the playoffs when he's guarding some of these bigger guys. This Minnesota Timberwolves team, I mean, Jaden McDaniels called out the Denver Nuggets for not having any good defenders, and then Game 3, 113 on their head, and they were dominant in the first half. And this was even a game, both teams did not shoot well. They both shot 26% from the field, from the three-point line for Minnesota, 25% from the three-point line for Denver. And Denver also shot 40 free throws in this game, and they still lost. Denver had 32 points at the free throw line. They doubled the Minnesota Timberwolves. They almost tied them in three-point makes. But Minnesota just dominated in the paint, 68-34. Doubled them in the paint, and those are easier looks. They came easier. Jaden McDaniels getting downhill. Ant getting downhill. This team was so dominant last night. They were dominant in Game 2 in the fourth quarter as well, stealing that game in Denver. This series, there's a lot of momentum in Minnesota's favor. Aaron Gordon missing time. That's a huge miss. Cam Johnson, he's been all right in this series, but he has not been a game changer, which I think a lot of people were looking at he could be in this series. The only thing I'm worried about with this Minnesota Timberwolves team is I see a lot of Anthony Edwards grabbing at his knee, and that scares me because the amount of shots getting downhill, the pressure that's placed on him every time he has the ball, it scares me for what the amount of usage rate and the amount of energy he's expending on the offensive end. He's getting some free time on the defensive end because he's such a good defender, so it's not like he's a slouch and you can just attack him. But I am worried about Anthony Edwards maybe missing some time in this series or in the playoffs. And like I said last week when I picked the Denver Nuggets, I continue to pick against the Minnesota Timberwolves every single year, and they continue to surprise me, and I'm all here for it. I'm okay with being wrong when it's in regards to the Minnesota Timberwolves because Anthony Edwards is that guy. They're getting some really solid bench contributions. Ayo Dosunmu's been excellent this series. Naz Reid hasn't been perfect, but he's still giving them that steady hand off the bench, giving them some solid minutes. Ayo's really been a game changer. He's so fast in transition. The way off a make or a miss, they're just pushing it against this Denver Nuggets team that doesn't have a true shot blocker inside. Game 2, though, like Jamal Murray was excellent. He's been excellent every single game outside of Game 3, really, which basically everybody on the Nuggets had a bad game in this game. But it's again, this Nuggets team, this Minnesota Timberwolves team, they could shock some people. I think, again, does depend on the health of Anthony Edwards, Julius Randle consistently being aggressive, Jaden McDaniels being aggressive. When he's aggressive in these games, he is one of the biggest game changers because he removes a lot of pressure on a guy like Ant and a guy like Julius Randle. And then you got Rudy Gobert averaging a double-double, getting 3 blocks a game, playing excellent defense on the best player in the world in Nikola Jokic. Rudy's still showing that he's still that guy. He's still that guy, Rudy is, and he continues to fight against Father Time. He's getting older, we know that, but every single year he shows up in the playoffs, and everybody's like, what is Minnesota going to change going into the next season? And it's like, Rudy's got a big contract. Can we move on from him? But the way he plays in the playoffs when he's guarding some of the best centers in the world, you can't get rid of that. He's arguably one of the best defenders in the world, behind Victor Wembanyama, behind Chet Holmgren. I think he's probably the 3rd best defensive center in the NBA. So shout out to him. But moving on to the last Western Conference series before we take a quick commercial break and come back to talk about the Eastern Conference. This one, surprising, because the Portland Trailblazers stole a game in San Antonio. Now, Victor Wembanyama did go out early in this game. He's still in concussion protocol. We are supposed to get confirmation if he's going to play tonight, sometime today. But Portland, this game 2 where they won really shows how well of a coach Tiago Splitter is, and I think he's going to keep this job. This was kind of a poor shooting game from Danny Avdija. He only had 14 points, 5 for 13 from the field. But Scoot Henderson, the man that they brought in and they moved on from Damian Lillard, then they brought back Damian Lillard, and everybody's like, what's this going to do for Scoot Henderson's career? I think he's showing Scoot Henderson is definitely somebody that you keep moving forward. Drew Holiday continues to give you solid minutes. He didn't play great in Game 2. He did have 9 assists, but he had 5 turnovers and only 16 points, which still really good for Drew Holiday. It's the defensive impact that you see. He only had 2 blocks and a steal, but his defensive impact is way larger than that. Donovan Clingan continues to be a pest on the offensive glass, dominating inside. He only had 9 points, but 5 offensive rebounds, giving them second possessions, or second chance points and second possessions against this San Antonio Spurs team with Victor Wembanyama out of the lineup. And shout out my guy. I've been trying to get the Kings. I've been mocking him to the Kings for a while because I just love the way he plays basketball, especially when it's in the most important games of the season, in the playoffs. Rob Williams, Time Lord Williams, he is one of the best backup centers in the NBA. especially when we get to these games in the playoffs. In Boston, he was doing the same thing on their run to the finals where they lost to the Warriors. Prior to that, he was excellent in the playoffs, and now in Portland in his first playoff series there, he's having amazing impact off the bench. Blocking shots, getting rebounds, dunking in the dunker spot every single possession, knocked down a 3 in game 2. He is one of the best kind of Swiss Army knife centers you can bring off the bench. He's athletic, he's versatile on the defensive end, and he's no slouch on the offensive end because he just does his job and what you want of a center. Dunk the ball every once in a while, stretch it out, maybe knock down a 3. This Spurs team, I think they're still going to win this series. I don't think Wemby's going to miss a lot of time. He did slam his head super hard against the floor. So if he is in concussion protocol, it does open up this series a little bit. I'm not going to personally pick against my boy De'Aaron Fox, though, and Mitch Johnson. I think Game 2, they still kept it very close without Wemby. You also have to think they didn't game plan to not have Victor Wembanyama at all in this series. So it was on the fly. They get a couple days to try and make a game plan of what they're going to do, what their rotations are going to look like. I trust them and Mitch Johnson and De'Aaron Fox and Devin Vassell to step up in Game 3 and Game 4. I think this series could go to 6 or 7, though, at this point. The only thing that does scare me about this San Antonio Spurs team without Victor Wembanyama is having Luke Kornet move to the starting lineup, which I think Luke Kornet's still a great player. He's still going to give you really solid minutes. It's the bench unit and what that's going to look like. They were running a small ball lineup. Harrison Barnes, Keldon Johnson, Carter Bryant, Dylan Harper, and then like Devin Vassell or Stephon Castle. That's a very small lineup. And depending on who Portland has in there, if it's Klingon, because Klingon is just a monster down low at like 7'3" or 7'4", whatever he's listed at, or Robert Williams, who's just an athletic freak, and he's still got some really solid size on him. That's going to be an interesting thing to watch out for in these bench minutes coming into Game 3 and Game 4. You also want to see Denny with no Victor Wembanyama down low. Can he finally get going a little bit? Because in Game 1, he had a solid game, but in Game 2, he was not great. He has been a little banged up in these games. A lot of people have, honestly. Harrison Barnes picked up a knock. Victor Wembanyama, obviously. Donovan Klingon was holding his hand at one point. But you want to see Denny get going in Game 3 and Game 4 with no Victor Wembanyama. And you want to see the bench unit minutes from this Portland Trailblazers team really dominate the Spurs one. But I still think there's so much firepower from this San Antonio Spurs guard positioning. Stephon Castle. Hey, Scoot Henderson's letting Stephon Castle hear about it every time he scores. He's letting him hear about it on every defensive possession. Scoot's been everywhere. He's been excellent this series. So, also a guy to watch out for. Shaedon Sharpe hasn't really broke out in any of these games yet, but he's a guy that off the bench can just drop a quick 25 points on you, and this turns this game from either a close game to a blowout or a very close game and in the favor of the Trailblazers. But yeah, the Western Conference playoffs is shaping up pretty well. Do have some pretty bad series at the top end. OKC and the Lakers both being up 2-0, but Minnesota, Denver, that's going to be a great series, and now Portland, San Antonio is looking like it's going to be a great series. So we're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we will be back to talk about the Eastern Conference playoffs. This has been Beyond the Scoreboard, presented by RDSC, and I'm your host, Michael Lyons. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Beyond the Scoreboard, presented by RDSC. And like I said before we went to a quick commercial break, we are going to talk about the Eastern Conference first-round playoffs. And by the thing, you heard the Max Strus. Max Strus has been hooping for the Cleveland Cavaliers. They did lose Game 3 in Toronto, like I said on Sports Flash yesterday. Don't sleep on Toronto because They might be down 2-0 in this series. Everybody was looking at, the way Toronto's played, this is going to get a slugfest. They're just going to slowly fall out in these games, and Cleveland's probably going to sweep them. Toronto is a hard place to play. If Toronto can steal either Game 4 on their court or Game 5 in Cleveland to push it to Game 6, this series could easily go to 7. I'm still picking Cleveland to win the series because they do have the home court advantage. They have the best players on the court, in my opinion. Scotty Barnes has looked good this series, though. I said it last week. I think Scotty Barnes could be the best player on the court. I don't know if he's personally hit that yet, but he is playing really good. He's finally knocking down his threes this year, which is crazy that it's finally coming in the playoffs. But Game 4 or Game 3, they were up steadily this entire game. They were continuously putting the pressure on Cleveland. A bad shooting night from Cleveland, which just goes in favor of what I was saying, that Toronto's a hard place to go and play at. 14 for 45 from the three-point line for this Cleveland Cavaliers team. That's terrible, especially when you got Toronto shooting 14 for 23. Very limited amount of shots, but they were knocking them down at a very high clip. Shout out CMB because he's been excellent this series. I think he's been better than Jakob Poeltl just because Poeltl he's too slow-footed at this point. He cannot keep up with Jared Allen or Evan Mobley. Colin Murray-Boyle is just a little too small, but as a rookie, he doesn't really look like a rookie out there coming off the bench in this series. But shout out to the former Buckeye. What a night for the Buckeyes last night. Shout out to them. 4 first-round picks in the NFL draft, most since like 1987 or something like that. And then Jamison Battle. What a night for the undrafted player out of Ohio State. 4 for 4 from the three-point line in the fourth quarter. Plus 20, plus minus in this game. 100% shooting percentage from him. Just an excellent game. He's definitely going to be in the lineup Game 4 and most likely Game 5 and Game 6. I don't think you could pull him off the court at this point because he just played so good in this series. They got him minutes early in this game, which I think is something that goes a little under the radar. Darko put him in early, which gave me the idea that he was definitely going to be in the game down the stretch. Fourth quarter comes along. At that point, he had 0 points because he was just kind of out there getting some cardio going because he's not really a good defender, and he didn't shoot at all. But getting him that action early, getting him kind of like settled into the game, knowing the pace, and then being able to just put him into the fire in the fourth quarter, he went electric, and he showed Darko that, like, I need to be on the floor for this series, and that's what's going to happen for the rest of the series. RJ Barrett as well in Game 3 showed up. Scotty, both with a 33 ball. Brandon Ingram, though, past 2 games has not been Brandon Ingram's night. Now, he's not playing terrible, but the amount of pressure that Scotty is going to have, the amount of pressure that RJ Barrett's now going to have after having this excellent Game 3 and great end of Game 2, Brandon Ingram's going to have to step up. He's really going to have to step up. Only played 29 minutes in this game. The only starters that played over 30 minutes for the Toronto Raptors was RJ and Scotty. Jakob Poeltl only played 18 minutes. Jacoby Walter only played 26. Getting moved into the starting lineup and bringing Jamal Shed off the bench for this Toronto Raptors team. I thought that was a solid move. He didn't have a great game. He had 5 assists, 3 turnovers. Did have 5 steals off the bench, though, but only 2 points. I just think Jamal Shed fits better as like a bench point guard. Comes in, just gets in everybody's grill, adds a lot of pressure to guys like Harden and D. Mitch, but I still feel confident in Cleveland to pull out this series. I'm happy that Toronto made this series. Even if it is just a gentleman's sweep, Toronto still gave us a good game, and they could definitely steal another game in Toronto, and if they can get one in Cleveland, I mean, this series is definitely not over for the Toronto Raptors. Moving on to the Detroit Pistons versus the Orlando Magic. Now, the inconsistencies from the Orlando Magic are showing. Game 1, they were on fire pretty much all game long. Coming off that game against Charlotte where they were excellent, Jalen Suggs, he's actually been good in both games. I'm not even going to discredit him in game 2. He's been good in both games. Paolo, aggressive in game 1. Franz, aggressive. Wendell Carter Jr., aggressive. They were knocking down their shots. Still only at 29%, but they were much more aggressive. They weren't turning the ball over as much, and they stole game 1 in Detroit. But then game 2 comes around. First half, Orlando's playing really solid. They keeping it close. I think they were down 3 at halftime. And then just the third quarter happened, and Orlando just fell apart. 16 points in the quarter, but they had 6. 10 minutes into this quarter. 10 minutes into the quarter, they had 6 points. Detroit started on a 30-3 run in this third quarter. Cade getting to the basket. Karis LeVert. The only thing this Pistons, I'm going to be honest, JB's got to shorten this rotation. I don't think that Karis LeVert should be on the floor. I don't think. Actually, he might be the only person. Maybe Javante's minutes need to be cut a little bit. He did play 23 in game 2, but I think that's partially because they were blowing him out in the fourth quarter. Detroit still only scored 98 points in this game. They didn't shoot well from the three-point line, but they had timely threes, especially in the third quarter. Duncan Robinson, 3 for 8. Cade, 1 for 6. Who else knocked down a 3? Beef Stew knocked down a 3. And then Kevin Huerter was 1 for 2. Those are the 6 threes they made in the game. Orlando beat them in that category. But Detroit just put the locks on. They were finally getting in transition in game 2. And I know everybody's so like wishy-washy. One night we're like Paolo Banchero's the next LeBron. The other night he's the next Anthony Bennett. That's a little too far. But Paolo does... Elias, if you're listening to this, I know you had some choice words about what I said about Paolo. Said I need to apologize to him. I'm not going to apologize to him because game 2, Paolo, if you are the number 1 guy on the Orlando Magic and you see that your team is on a 30-3 deficit in the third quarter, you need to take accountability for that, and you need to go get a bucket for yourself. Nobody on the Pistons can guard Paolo Banchero. He's just too big. If he catches it on the block, nobody can guard him, outside of maybe Jalen Duren on the block and Beef Stew. But he's not getting guarded by those guys. They're playing off-ball help defense on Paolo, on Jalen Suggs, on Franz. Paolo needs to... Again, I feel bad because Paolo had a great game 1. But game 2, a 30-3 run, Paolo has to take accountability and be like, okay, this is getting out of hand. Let me go get a bucket. That's all I'm saying. Elias, if you're listening, that's all I'm saying. But back to this series, it's just too much off nights, on nights for this Orlando Magic team. If they could just get 3-4 games in a row where they look solid, they could beat any team in a series, but they just can't do that. They have 2 good games in a row, and then they have 5 bad games in a row. So I appreciate Orlando for taking game 1, giving us a little bit of a surprise, but I truly think Detroit, they won their first playoff game at home since 2011, I believe it was. Or no, it was 15 years, I think. I don't know. It was something like that. It was like a long time ago, the last time they won a playoff home game. They finally won it. They broke that curse. Their next 2 games, if it goes to that in Detroit, they're definitely going to take them. And Detroit's a good road team, and Orlando's coming off a really bad game where they only scored 83 points. I think Detroit's going to handle business these next couple of games. I do want to say shout out to Wendell Carter Jr., though, because he has been locking down Jalen Duren, which does scare me for series to come, because in Series 2, if the Pistons move on, they're going to have to play most likely Cleveland, and they got 2 big body centers down there, and Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, and the fact that Jalen Duren can't take advantage of Wendell Carter Jr. on the block, that does scare me in the next series for this Detroit Pistons team. Also scares me the lack of creativity outside of Cade Cunningham, the lack of secondary ball handling. That I know that's what Karis LeVert's supposed to come off the bench and do. I don't want to see Karis LeVert on the court, to be honest. I don't think Pistons fans want to see him on the court either. Dennis Jenkins' first 2 games, he has not been good. He does give a lot of energy, which I appreciate from him. But somebody's got to step up, be that secondary ball handler, and relieve some pressure from Cade Cunningham, whether it's Asar Thompson, whether it's Tobias Harris knocking down some shots, which he did in the second half. But Jalen Duren needs to be aggressive in Game 3, Game 4 in Orlando, set the tone early, getting down on the block. Moving on to, we're going to say my favorite series for last. We're going to move on next to Boston versus Philly. Boston, Game 1, put up an electric shooting night, 123-91 victory, where they knocked down 16 of 44 three-pointers. Not a great game in regards to Boston Celtics shooting, but Philly 4 for 23. Boston, though, Game 2, they were just atrocious from the three-point line. 111-97 victory for the Boston Celtics, or for the Philadelphia 76ers. Boston 13 for 25, or 13 for 50 from the three-point line. And shout out VJ Edgecombe, man. Shout out these rookies balling in the playoffs. VJ, Colin Murray Boyles, both those guys are hooping right now. VJ took a hard fall in Game 2 in the first quarter, went back to the locker room, came back second quarter, balled out, went back to the locker room quarter 3, came back and balled out, dropped a 30 ball as a rookie, a 30-ball double-double with 10 rebounds. Tyrese Maxey, 29 points, 9 assists, only 1 turnover. Kelly Oubre was knocking down some threes. Paul George still being a steady hand when they need him off the ATOs. Andre Drummond giving some really good minutes. Game 1, like, everybody was in foul trouble. All the big men. Cato was in foul trouble. Drummond, Bona, Vooch was in trouble. So I do think Game 1, that's what we expect to see the rest of the series for the Boston Celtics, outside of the foul trouble from the big men. The shooting-wise, though, we expect better from them. Jason Tatum had 19 points in Game 2. Jaylen Brown had 36, but outside of that, nobody else scored in double figures. I don't think there's much to worry about with this series. Philly did give us a chance to maybe see Joel Embiid in the playoffs, though. You give them another game where they had to win. You extend the game another series, it gives a better chance for us to see Joel Embiid in the playoffs. And if that does happen, this could become a series at that point. I still think Boston's going to handle business. Just a bad shooting night, in my opinion, from this team. Sam Hauser has not been great these first 2 games, so that's something to watch out for. Peyton Pritchard wasn't great in Game 2. Jordan Walsh, I think he needs to play a little bit more minutes, in my opinion. I think he needs to come off the bench, be one of the first guys off the bench for this Boston Celtics team. Just being able to slow down a Tyrese Maxey, a VJ Edgecombe when they're hot. Jordan Walsh can do that. just extinguish all your energy on to the defensive side of the ball. Don't worry about knocking down a three-pointer. Just pass it up. Even if you're open, just pass it up, Jordan Walsh. Just spend all your energy defending Tyrese Maxey, defending VJ Edgecombe. I think this series, happy that Philly gave us a game. Just means we have a better chance of getting Joel Embiid, but I don't see Philly winning this series. Now moving on to my favorite series so far, because I took a chance. I spoke into fruition what I expected to see from this series. I was the only person on Sports Flash that picked this. I was the only person in the studio that I know of that picked this series. Shout out my boy Ryan Hitzke, doing great things. He picked them. Not in the studio, though, but shout out Ryan Hitzke. The Atlanta Hawks are up 2-1 right now on the New York Knicks. They stole game 2 in the Garden. CJ McCollum, he's back. CJ McCollum. New York's got a new villain, and it's CJ McCollum. I love that Atlanta is coming out with the energy. They're trying. This team is a salary dump team. CJ McCollum's on this roster for a salary dump. The Hawks didn't want him, but nobody else wanted him, so the Hawks just took him. Jonathan Kuminga at this point was a salary dump because he wasn't even playing on the Warriors. Hawks took a chance on him. Dyson Daniels, Hawks took a chance on him. This team is full of guys that have something to prove. Jalen Johnson was a great player at Duke, didn't play a lot, fell in the draft. He's got a lot to prove, and he's becoming an all-star superstar in Atlanta. CJ, small guard from a small school in Lehigh. And they just continue to fight. They lost game 1 against the Knicks, 113-102 in the Garden. Jalen Brunson was electric. Cat. I'm just gonna cut straight into it. This New York Knicks team is so soft once again. From Karl Anthony Towns not being able to score in the first half, all of his points coming in the second half, to Mikal Bridges dropping a donut in game 2 and not even being on the floor in the fourth quarter outside of a defensive possession. They were playing Deuce McBride in the fourth over Mikal Bridges. Mike Brown, I love Mike Brown, but he has looked soft in this series. For some reason, Mitchell Robinson's not playing like extended minutes in the third and fourth quarter when they're on runs, but Atlanta is just handling everything perfectly. Anytime New York just gets a little bit of a run, they go to their steady hand and CJ McCollum, and he knocks down a shot. Nickeil Alexander-Walker has not been great in the first 3 games. Game 3, he was a lot better than Game 1 and Game 2. He finally knocked down some shots, did bank a three-pointer in on the wing. But this Hawks team, they're showing up in the clutch. And this Knicks team that you have Jalen Brunson, who's Captain Clutch, doesn't look like it. The Knicks, they're after timeout that they call in Game 3 to get that final shot to Jalen Brunson. That just got instantly blown up by the Knicks. Jonathan Kuminga was all over the floor. From blowing up the screen that Cat sent, to sending double team onto Jalen Brunson on the baseline, to then following out on the bad pass from Jalen Brunson to Josh Hart. He was the guy that poked it away from Josh Hart and basically ended the game. Jonathan Kuminga coming off the bench. Warriors fans, I know Noah Telford's in the studio right now. He has a show after me. If you want to listen to the Cubs, go listen to him. Warriors fan, Noah Telford. Jonathan Kuminga's hooping in the playoffs once again. He did it last year against the Rockets. We saw what he can do with Curry out, and now he's doing it in Atlanta after they decided they didn't want to keep him. 21 points off the bench in Game 3. Timely buckets, getting in the paint, knocking down three-pointers, forcing bad shots, getting blocks. Karl-Anthony Towns isn't being able to dominate either Jonathan Kuminga or Mo Gay. They're playing small against Karl-Anthony Towns because they don't have a big man. Tony Bradley, he played in game 2. He wasn't great. That's more just like a Mitchell Robinson assignment. They don't have Jock Landale because he's out with an injury. Onyeka Okongwu, he's given really solid minutes. Jalen Johnson's finally getting it going, especially in Game 2 and Game 3. CJ, 32 ball in Game 2, 23 points in Game 3 with a dagger at the very end. Dyson Daniels, Nikhil, they have so many bodies to throw at everybody. Dyson Daniels, 8 points, 13 rebounds. He had 5 turnovers, but the 6 assists, 3 steals, and a block, and the excellent defense against Jalen Brunson, I feel confident that this Atlanta Hawks team can definitely push this Knicks team way further than they want to. Even if the Knicks win the series, this is a win for the Atlanta Hawks. Salary dump team, transition into a new era of your franchise, and you're still consistently beating the New York Knicks in the playoffs. And I am so happy that we're getting these Knicks fans after game 1 chanting, "We want Boston," and then dropping the next 2 games, not having any sort of momentum. Atlanta having game 4 in Atlanta. They could go up 3-1 in this series. And they already showed they're not scared to play in the Garden. They're not scared to play in the Mecca. At this point, the Mecca has not 90s, 80s, 70s, the Mecca, the Garden. That was the hardest place to play in basketball. Now everybody turns up at the Garden. I don't really think there's any home court advantage, honestly, at the Garden. Maybe I'll eat my words for that, but I'm happy this Hawks team is proving what I was saying right, and I'm happy that I like when teams like the Hawks, this could be the Indiana Pacers of last year, is this Atlanta Hawks team. They're getting contributions from everybody. Everybody that's in the game is giving them contributions. Mo Gay is knocking down a three-pointer. He's been huge off the bench with the energy and the defense that he brings. Gabe Vincent's giving you some solid minutes. Jonathan Kuminga off the bench, obviously, he's like the Benedict Mathurin. And then you got Nikhil. He's finally trying to get a little bit going. And then you got the steady hand, the clutch shots, and CJ McCollum. And then Jalen Johnson is just a beast down low, and nobody on this Knicks team could guard him, in my opinion. So, shout out to the Hawks. Shout out to you if you're listening. If you want to listen to some Cubs baseball, Noah Telford's up next before our softball games at DePaul today. If you want to listen to that, we have some games after Noah happening, so stay tuned. This has been Beyond the Scoreboard, presented by RDSC, and I'm your host, Michael Lyons.